Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Optimal Health Talks with Dr. Obina, the place where we design your health with knowledge. I am your host, Dr. Obina. And as always, I am thrilled to have you with me on this journey to optimal health. In our last episode, we explored the fundamentals and the fascinating world of epigenetics. And we all know epigenetics. Epigenetics is the science that let us understand that we are no longer slave to our genes, that our genes are not sacrosanct. And it won Nobel Prize in 2012. And it does know that our environment, which is our diet, our movements with our muscles, and our mind, especially our thoughts and the balancing of our mental state can influence the very expression of our genes. In that episode, we broke down the molecular switches that turn on the genes, the mTORs, the sirtuins, the 5-AMP. These are those particular mechanisms with which our genes can no longer be said to be our destiny, that it is our daily life choices that hold the pen that rewrites our health story. So today, we are going to shift gear. We're going to shift gear entirely to another critical dimension of health, which I have always been fascinated with. In my concept of the mouth, muscle, and mind, anybody who listens to my other social media handles will understand that I'm so intrigued by the influence of the mental state and balance on our health, which is one of the most understated. People do not talk about it, including health providers do not mention it enough. And stress is the most important component of that. We now understand stress. Stress is often labeled as the enemy. Oh my, it's not the enemy. But what if I told you that stress was designed in good faith to protect us, a human being? What of get to know that the same biological systems that helped our ancestors to survive in the wild, from the Amazon forests of South America to the savanna grasslands in Africa, it is the same things that are silently contributing to the epidemic of chronic diseases that we have in our modern world. So understanding stress is not just helpful, it is essential, because in today's world, which we call it the pressure cooker world, stress is no longer just a rare burst of that emergency that it was originally intended to, but is our constant companion within that pressure. And that's where the problem lies. So in this episode, I am going to demystify stress. We will uncover why your body has a stress response in the first place. And I will, I'm the fundamental guys. I like fundamentals because I believe that if you understand the whys and the hows and the whats of the mechanisms, the precise cellular and molecular, as well as physiological processes that prepare you to face threat, then you will appreciate what stress does. Knowledge is not exclusive result of scientists. That's why I want to make it easy for you to understand exactly what your body has to deal with on a daily basis. I want to bring out today, show you why the very system that was designed to save your life in the wild is not ironically the one that is taking it slowly, painfully, silently through heart diseases, diabetes mellitus, obesity, neurodegenerative disorders, and some cancers. You deserve to understand, as my people who listen to me on a daily basis, you deserve to understand your body like never before. And that's what I'm here to do today. Because when you understand that, that's when you'll be able to take control of it. So if you are ready, I want you to have a little bit of time and let this sink in. If you are ready, let us begin. Let us get to know this stress that we talk about every day. People talk about, I am stressed. I feel stressed. Now, let us get to know what stress is. Let's break it down. Let's go to the basics of it. So stress is not just a word. Some people think, I'm stressed. It's not just a word. It was an inbuilt ancient survival system that was a sophisticated system that was wired into our DNA over millennia, protecting us from threats. Imagine our ancestors in the savannah grasslands of Africa, to the Amazon forest, whether they are spotting a lion or an anaconda. At that moment, the brain triggers an alarm system, which is now what we call stress response. And within seconds, this is what happens. This is our brain. When I talk about the mind, I'm a student of the mind. If you understand the brain in itself as a little spongiform organ in our body, that the role it plays in our body, you'll be marveled. There's a part of it called the hypothalamus, a small control center that's responsible for all the vegetative, emotional part of us. It is that hypothalamus, which is the center of your brain, that first fires the signal because it just feels the threat. It now asks the adrenal glands to quickly release hormones. One of them is adrenaline from the inner part of the adrenal gland, and then cortisol from the outer part of the adrenaline. The two of them, these two powerful hormones, are quickly released into the body. One of them, the adrenaline, is going to go to the heart and ask the heart to pump more blood. And it pumps more blood because it wants to give the muscles energy, surge of blood, so that they can fight or run from that threat. And then the cortisol is what causes the blood sugar in our blood to go up, to spike, increasing the fuel, the availability of fuel in our body. And it also helps our breathing to quicken, make our breathing so that we can take in more oxygen, the same thing for our body to work. And so our senses begin to sharpen. Our eyes begin to focus on that particular threat. It begins to remove everything, non-urgent processes in the body like your digestion, your immunity have to shut down because you want to save the energy, because those are no longer necessary. You want to save the energy for survival. First, that is the brilliance of what the stress response is supposed to do to our body. It is an emergency superpower for us in its original intent and precept. But here's the catch. In that setting that I've just described, it is supposed to be short-lived. We either fight the lion and defeat it, go and kill the lion or anaconda, or run away from it and are now safe. It is supposed to be short-lived. In our present paradigm, we have to find a way to shut it down. Now, there is no lion in the bush. What is the threat that our brain perceives right now? Our poor brain doesn't understand the difference. It's our emails, it's our mortgage, our bill, our children, our deadlines in the office, the traffic jam in the morning, our financial struggles. They are the ones now that trigger the same mechanisms because the brain is now seeing them as a threat, perceiving them as a threat. But that threat never leaves us. Think about all these things I've mentioned. We are not running nowhere. We are not fighting it. We just sit down and keep rolling it our head, and these hormones keep pouring. It is this chronic simmering of the stress response that is the problem we have recently. Can you imagine? Our body was not built for it to be in this constant alert. So when the stress becomes a daily background hum in our lives, our cortisol levels are elevated. Think about all the things I'm talking about now. Our blood sugar remains high continuously. Our heart is pumping hard. And the pressure rises in our blood. Our blood pressure begins to go up. The inflammation begins to go up. The cells become resistant to insulin. And constant pressure on these arteries make them stiffen. And then the cortisol also begin to divert glucose to produce fat that will now go in our belly, and that becomes dangerous for diseases like diabetes and heart disease. Our brain begins to shrink because our brain is so focused on this that all the memory and emotional regulation that it needs to be doing is no longer doing them because it's now just focused on trying to mediate this stress. Our immune system, like I said, becomes vulnerable to infections, how cancer comes in, because our immune system is supposed to try to clean down those cells so that before they turn and become dangerous, and it's no longer able to do that. So a system that was originally made to protect us is now sabotaging our efforts. Diseases like diabetes, obesity, depression, hypertension, cancer, dementia, like I mentioned. It is these underlying conditions that no longer makes our health the way it's supposed to be. And anyone who desires to live a little bit longer, prevent some of these diseases, will now need to understand stress, and not just understanding it, how you can master it and bring it under your control. So today, this episode of my podcast, we are going to have to explore a little deeper than I have just mentioned. We are going to explore how our cells, the tiny powerhouses in our body called the mitochondria, how they respond to chronic stress. Because if we know that, we can appreciate what is going to be necessary to mitigate it. We will also uncover the link between stress and chronic inflammation, which eventually cause disease. And most importantly, I'm going to show you how you can rewire your stress response, turning it into the same ancient system, but that will only, instead of being your enemy, is going to be your friend. So you're going to stay with me because this is Optimal Health Talk with Dr. Obinna. Let us take control of stress. Let us take control of our health. And I can tell you, if you continue to listen, we would like to get you to a point where you can use all the knowledge you're going to get from this to protect yourself and help you to live.
Hello. Before you go, this is Dr. Obinna. In the next episode, which is a direct continuation of this, I will expand and expound the core precepts of stress. But please, if you have not done so, subscribe and share this podcast to grow where we can walk together on this journey. This is the beginning of those tiny steps that lead to giant prints in the sand of time. Thank you.